Gang, please get familiar with them. It was Push, Malice, obviously. They make up the Clipse, and then you had Ab Lava, and then you had Sandman. They from Philly, by the way. Now, to be honest with y'all, Sandman was my favorite in the group. Anytime I listen to their music, I always rewind to his verses, and I still do it to this day. And if you don't believe me, man, check my YouTube history, check my Apple Music history. And that's another thing, too. They end up dropping all their old mixtapes on Apple Music too. Just like how I made a video with Rick Ross, I should have did it with them also. And if y'all not familiar, when Clipse dropped their first album, they had two albums actually, but the first one never got released. When they dropped Lord Willing, it took them a while to drop their second album, and they did the We Got It For Cheap series. Now, them We Got It For Cheap series was just as good as the albums, but they eventually did have their own album to drop also. Now, if you never listened to their debut album, I'm going to keep it real with you. It don't sound like a regular Clipse album. It won't no Pharrell production, no Pharrell singing on the hook, no Neptunes, none of that. Them boys were strictly independent, so they had to get their producers elsewhere. And I'm going to still tell you this. Even though that's the case, give it a listen anyway, because you might still find some gems. You know how it is when you listen to an album. But I will say this also. Some of them verses was recycled, mainly from that We Got It For Cheap Volume 3. But we're going to leave that one alone. Now, I know I said them boys had their differences, but it was mainly Sandman because he the only one that left. The other three, they stayed click tight from day one to now. And I was reading an article from like '09 with your boy Sandman. He must have just left the group, and he was saying how he didn't like how they dropped their album on Koch Records. Now, if you familiar with Koch Records, that was the #1 independent label at the time. And a lot of artists was leaving the majors and dropping their independent albums on Koch Records. And I heard them boys was getting money. I remember Jim Jones talking about he was making $8 a pop. Now, we don't know how true that was because he kind of recanted some of that later on. And I remember 50 Cent talking about how that was the graveyard label just because of what I said. All the majors was going the independent route. And I remember that started to be between him and Cameron. So y'all do y'all homework on that right over there. But he didn't like the fact how they dropped it on Koch Records, and then they gonna turn around and drop their next album on Columbia Records. First of all, Columbia got Beyonce. You ain't even gotta say nothing else after that. But I was thinking, like I said, if they was to reunite and start making music again, how would it sound? Or should they just go their separate ways and just enjoy each other's company and just let it be what it is? What do y'all think? Should they make music again and drop another album? Because you seen Clipse, they dropped a perfect album a month or two ago. You think they can do it too? Like people might actually start investing in them and, you know, put out a great project? Or you think them boys should just enjoy each other's company and then just keep it pushing right after that? Y'all let me know in the comments below.